English name is Julie. I'm 52 years old and I've been a Muslim for over 20 years. My parents were 100% English. I was born in a small village called Denton in the middle of nowhere and lived in Northamptonshire most of my life. My parents were atheist and my grandmother was a Baptist Christian, and I grew up with my grandmother, so I followed what she followed because she would drag me along every Sunday, and I became quite involved with the church. And I was working with a lady who was a social worker with Women's Aid, and I found out she was Muslim, and I was quite upset because I had the outside image of the Muslims being oppressing women and being violent and aggressive and basically not very nice. So I was quite distressed for her, so I decided I was going to convert her to Christianity. And after a few months she got fed up with me, so she said one day, right, I give you a challenge. If you can find any fault, any mistake, any one thing that's not correct with Islam, not with the people, with Islam, with the Quran, the Hadith or the Sharia law, I'll come to Christianity. So I said, oh, that's great, that's going to be easy, I'll do that. So I took the challenge and I bought some books and I read and I read and I read some more, and I couldn't find anything wrong. And I tried everything. I had quite a bookshelf before I actually decided that there wasn't anything wrong. And it was perfect. And all the answers were there. The answers you couldn't find in Christianity. In the Bible I found so many flaws and downright mistakes in places. And when you ask a minister, what about this? It says in Corinthians this, and then it says in Ephesians this. Which is true? It's always a matter of faith. If it's a book of God, there's no faith, there's fact. And I found in Islam the facts were there. Everything was black and white. There was an answer. There wasn't anything where anyone went, well, make your mind up. Because we're human, we shouldn't have to make our mind up. So I found Islam was perfect. And it had all the answers. So I decided after about 6 months of reading, I should become a Muslim. Which Hamida thought was fantastic. Quite funny. She laughed for a very long time. And then her uncle, who was an imam from Leicester, came down and did the Shahada for me. And I became a Muslim, an undercover Muslim, didn't tell anybody. I didn't want anybody to know because I still remembered what my image of Islam was. My preconceived, media-induced image, which was very negative. And I knew I was going to get so much trouble. I knew my family would have, my mum and dad hated me being a Christian. What would they do when I was a Muslim? You know? This would be a shootable offence, I'm sure. So I just didn't tell anyone. My children knew. The people in the church, I was having a few issues with them anyway, so I just stopped going. And when anybody asks, why don't you go? Oh, well, I'm busy. Got something else to do, and I just fobbed them off every time. I didn't give them a definitive answer, so they assumed it was from the other problems that were going on. One of my kids carried on going to the church for quite a few years afterwards, and I had my own business, and I was working predominantly with older English ladies, a lot from the church, and they would ask me, well, why don't you go? Oh, just I'm busy. And I thought, if they knew I was Muslim, my business would be finished. Nobody would want to talk to me. They'd probably send me off to one of these brainwashing camps like the Jehovah's Witnesses have or something, because it still felt like it was something wrong because the media have got such a bad image. And I thought, how do I convince everybody? It took me 6 months of reading incessantly to find the truth. How am I going to convince everybody? Especially my mum and dad, who were very racist, very anti-religion. They were atheist. So fast forward 3 years of being a Muslim, and I decided I wanted to get married again. I met a guy who was originally from Zanzibar, and we got married. I knew him for a couple of years and then we got married, and my family were very upset. My father was quite racist, so he was upset that I was marrying a black guy. And then when he found out he was Muslim, he was like, oh my God, now he's going to force you to be Muslim. And it was quite a heated conversation, because he was saying, oh, I'm going to cut you out of the will and all this stupid talk. And I said, I don't care, cut me out, I don't care. And I said, and as for becoming Muslim, I've been Muslim for like years, just never told you. And they were really upset. But they sort of ignored it because I suppose they thought, well, he should have been Muslim for years and we didn't know. So it doesn't mean anything. And they kept saying I was stupid, but it's no worse than going to the church. They just thought God was a silly idea. Yeah, after a few years, my dad unfortunately got Alzheimer's, which was in a way fortunate for me because he forgot about racism. He forgot why he didn't like my husband, and he forgot why he didn't get on with me, and we became friends again. My husband never went in the house again because we were worried that if he saw him, he would remember why he didn't like him. So he would always say, oh, why didn't Max come in? I'd say, oh, he's busy, he's at work, something. Oh, he's so good. The kids keep saying, well, he's done this and he's done that. And all of a sudden, Max was a nice guy. And we didn't want to risk it. But yeah, it was quite good. He completely forgot about racism. And he forgot that Islam was a bad idea. And he seemed more accepting of who I was and how I was, rather than the image of Islam, because he saw that I was a better person. And he was quite good with me. And after he died, my mother lived for another, I think, 7 or 8 years. She still hated Islam, and if she saw me go off into the bedroom to do my salah, I'd get stupid comments of, why do you put your head on the ground? You're wasting your time. What's the point? Just enjoy your life. You're losing so much for this silly religion. But then she got cancer, and she was very ill very fast. And I sat with her in the hospital. And she was lucky, she was treated, each doctor that came to her was a Muslim. And I remember one particular comment. It was like gold coming out of her mouth. She went, this Islam you joined is a lovely club. That was her acceptance almost of the religion, because the people, she saw the difference, that the Muslim people had more time for her. They were kinder with her. They talked better with her. She had one non-Muslim doctor who was very abrupt and went, look, we've got to do this and we've got to do that. And she was like, I don't like you, I don't want you again. Because she realised some people are caring, some people are not. Not necessarily with the religion, but, you know, it helped. And then one day when she was very ill, I didn't want to leave her bedside. I was sleeping there. So I had to do my salah there. She was resting, so I pulled the curtain round and I started doing my salah, and she started waking up. And I thought, what do? Do I stop my prayer? Do I talk to her? Do I wait for her to call me? What do I do? So I just carried on praying, and she's moaning and groaning and waking up. And then she went quiet, and I thought, oh, thank God for that, she's gone back to sleep. So I finished my prayer, and when I got up, it was like a different person. She said to me, oh, I hope you prayed for me. Normally, if she'd have come into her house or my house when I was doing my salah, there would have been some 4-letter words and, why do you waste your time? Why are you putting your head on the floor? There isn't a God, you're wasting your time. But all of a sudden, she seemed to realise that this was important. And there was one saying I always used to have, even as a Christian. I did a lot of volunteer work. My mum didn't approve. And I'd always say to her, I'll get paid in the next life. And one day in the hospital, there was an old lady sitting opposite my mum. And there isn't enough nursing staff. And she was sliding out of her chair. And she got her feet on the cold floor. So I went and I helped her back into her chair. And I took a pillow off one of the beds and I put it under her feet. And when I went back, my mum said to me, she goes, yeah, I know, you'll get paid in the next life. So I think eventually, if you talk kindly for long enough, People do listen to these things, and it does go through in the end. But it was a hard few years. I had to be so careful what I said. Even if they asked me a question about Islam, I had to be very careful how I worded it. Because although Islam is perfect, people aren't, and we very often get things wrong, especially if it's stressful. Before I was Muslim, when I was Christian, I suffered a lot with stress. I was on my own with 4 kids, and I run my own business, and constantly under stress. The doctors had put me on Prozac. I used to have panic attacks. I used to have a terrible temper. Before I had the kids, I was always fighting, always in trouble. And after I became Muslim, not straight away, but slowly I became more patient. I became happier. I stopped taking the Prozac. My doctors went crazy at me because one day I just thought, I don't need this. And I stopped, which apparently you can't do. You should slowly stop. But I just went in the bin. I had a few headaches, but I had no more stress. I don't lose my temper so much. And it gives you a perspective on life, because there is an answer for everything. I think without Islam, I wondered why things happened. Especially as a Christian, because they teach this, oh, God is love, Jesus forgives, everything is fantastic. And it's not. Life is a test. And if you don't think it's a test and something bad happens, stress. Because you can't, how do you know why this has happened? In Islam, we know there's benefit in everything. Even there's one hadith, if you prick your finger with a thorn, it takes away your sins. So in Islam, if you fall down in the snow and you bruise something, you think, oh, that's good. That's took something I've done. And there's a reason for it. Once your perspective changes and the Islamic perspective comes in, if something bad happens, you think, okay, this is for a reason. And this is making me better. And you're happy about it. Everything is for a reason. When you believe this and you live by it, you're never short of anything. It's only when you start to think, oh, I've got this big problem and this big problem's crushing me. You allow it to crush you. When you say, I've got this big problem, but my God is bigger, and this big problem is making me better, it's a small problem. So I'd advise you to read more and learn as much as you can, because a lot of people who are born Muslim, they've got their culture mixed with their Islam. And you don't want to get confused and go for the culture and not the Islam.